Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to do this. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback from you women, and I want every single one of you guys to just put in your head, in your mind, in your mindset that faith over fear will overcome everything and anything. So that's the type of mindset that I've had. And today I'm going to be talking about my brother's intestine tumor. I've had so many surgeries, so intestine tumor. Okay, so here we go. My brother had surgery in 2015. My daughter was 2.5, maybe 3 years old at the time. My brother had really bad stomach pain. So my mom drove him to the emergency room. And when she drove him to the emergency room, they had requested images like x-rays, MRIs, and stuff like that. So when they went, they saw that he had a big tumor that took part of his small intestines and part of his big intestines. So it was a really big tumor. The tumor was actually about like this big, almost the size of my head. You imagine that in your intestines? That shit right there is like totally like. Anyway, so we had to make the decision that he needed emergency surgery. This tumor was growing, and it was causing him a lot of pain. So we had to get surgery. So when we got surgery, they took a big amount of I believe it was the small intestine. They took a small part of the small intestine, and no, they took a small part of the large intestine and took the majority of the small intestine. So when that happened, obviously it was a very big thing for our family. So he had to stay in the hospital for recovery. So he had a scar from here all the way down to his private parts, right? So it's a really big surgery, and it went down that way. So one day I went to there. Nobody could stay with my brother, so of course, I would go and I stayed with him for a day. So when I stayed with him, I see that he's very uncomfortable, and then all of a sudden, I really need to stop crying in these videos. Like, all of a sudden, I see him just throw up, right? And this is, mind you, this is after the surgery. And I just see him just throw up, like just keep on throwing up. So I'm calling the nurse and I'm pressing the button, and I see, mind you, he has a scar, it's not covered. So he had the hospital gown, and when he had the hospital gown, like the vomit just like went over his scar. So I was mostly concerned about the opening of where they took out the tumor. I was worried about it because I didn't want it to get infected, and then that would cause even more issues, and I didn't want him to go through any of that. So I called the nurse and I started pressing buttons, and I'm like, whatever. So they come and they clean him up, and once they clean him up, he throws up again, and he just keeps on throwing up. So I'm like calling, and I keep calling the nurse. The doctor comes in, and while the doctor's talking, he throws up again. So he gets to see the actual vomit, and it was green. It was like a dark green, like, you know, like the gangrene green, you know, like it was that type of green. And I'm over here holding his hand. I'm like, dude, just hold my hand. Telling my brother, hold my hand. So the doctor said he's actually throwing up bile from like their stomach, you know, like that the acidic part. Yeah, that. So he was actually throwing that up. And so what they had to do was they had to put a tube through his nose that goes down to his throat, that goes all the way down to his stomach, that can release all that bile instead of him throwing it up, right? So they put a numbing spray in his throat So they put the numbing spray in his throat. They had him spray, and they had warned him that this was going to hurt. So I'm sitting there, and I'm by myself. My parents weren't there. My younger brother wasn't there. It was just me. So seeing that, I'm just trying to be there. And then they gave him a cup of water. So with that cup of water, they told him that while they put it through his nose, he needed to swallow the water so that so you have 2 tubes in your throat. So they wanted it to go down through the right tube. So in order for him to do that, because it's like a flap, in order for him to do that, he has to swallow so it could close this way, and then it goes all the way straight down to his throat, right? So while he was doing that, the stick it's like a pretty big stick that goes up your nose, and then it has to like curve down that way and go down. So that's a very difficult task to do. And all of a sudden you see him, like, he's like, okay, cool. So he's like swallowing, and then you see his eyes open up, which was like, to me, my brother's a very strong person, and my brother doesn't really show emotion, like, at all. Like, he doesn't show emotion at all. So the fact that he just opened his eyes, like, he was like this, and he just like opened his eyes, and he's like, oh my God. And it was just like going in, and I was just like, wait, you have to stop. And then that's just like, we can't stop because we have to get it through we have to get it through his throat. And he's just like, you see him, like, he's like choking, like, and I'm like holding his hand, and I'm like crying. I didn't know what to do. Like, even now I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless in that situation, and I couldn't help my brother in that situation. And I wanted to, like, if I could trade places with him, I would. And the fact that I couldn't was hard. It was very hard for me, because I feel like I feel like if I could take everybody's pain away in my family, I would, and I'll put it all on me, because I know I could deal with it. Like, I could go through it. So the fact that seeing him like that, and knowing that he's not a very emotional person, my brother does not show emotion. Like, if you know him, you know that he does not show emotion. To see him like that, and then so they finally got the tube down to his stomach and through his throat, and he couldn't talk because the tube had like these little spiky thingies, so it like scratched his whole throat. So I'm trying to act like, every time, you know, when you talk, like, your throat goes up and down. So I was trying to talk to him, he was trying to talk, and he told me to pass me his, like, my phone. So then I'm like, what can I do? And he writes on the notepad, you know, on the iPhone, he writes on the notepad, he goes, you can't do anything, this sucks and it hurts. And oh my gosh, that was really hard. But so I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to tell him to go to sleep, like, don't worry about it. I think that out of all surgeries, that one impacted me so much, for the fact that he's the type of person that doesn't express how he feels. He doesn't do any of that. So to see him like that and expressing how he feels even when he's in pain, that hit me harder than seeing my mother or father, because I know their reaction, and I know how they are when they're in pain, and I know that I know things that I can do to make them feel better. My brother, I don't know what to do to make him feel better. Like, I really don't know. Like, me and him, my little brother probably does. They have a more close relationship than me and my older brother have. But, like, the fact that I was there and I couldn't do anything, and the fact that it happened on the day that my parents couldn't even go, was more horrific than anything. Like, okay, if my parents were there, then I probably would have handled the situation better. But the fact that they weren't there and I was the only one there made me, like, anxious and nervous, and I couldn't do anything. So So I'm sitting there and I'm telling him to relax, to go to sleep, but he wanted the spray in his mouth because it scratched like the whole part of his throat. So then at that moment, I call them my aunt and my uncle because they've been there since I was 7 years old. They're actually one of my parents' closest friends, and their name is Luis and Clarisol. So they had knocked on the door was closed of his room. He had a private room, and the door was closed in his room. So they knocked on the door, and I went to go open the door, and I just broke down. When I saw them, I just broke down, and I was just like, oh my God, thank God you're here. Like, and they're looking at me, they're like, what happened? Is everything okay? And I'm like, yo, just call my parents. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Like, this is what happened. So I'm explaining it to them, and they got in, and we, like, my parents were on speaker, so they were like, we're on our way, we're going. And that was very rough time for me. So I stayed there, obviously, and it's been almost 4 years since that happened, and that just keeps replaying in my head, and it keeps replaying in my head, and it just keeps replaying in my head. And even when me and my brother, obviously he's doing fine now, he's actually getting his master's, he's doing fine. His diet, first of all, my brother and his diet, like, nobody could talk about his diet, okay? Like, he is very strict with his diet. He does everything right, and he always done everything right even before he found out he had a tumor. So he was going through like, I guess, like a mental or spiritual breakdown, because it was more like, I do everything right, why did this happen to me? And even me, I would say he does everything right, like healthy, like eating healthy, exercising, he did everything right, so why would this happen to him? Do you understand? But sometimes we have to go through situations and live through the moment, like I've been saying since my last videos, because this is going to prepare us for something that's going to happen that's bigger. And I feel that one of the reasons why we had to go through my brother was to mentally prepare for my mom, you know? And we all did an amazing job mentally being there for my mom, and just, you know, not breaking down mentally, as we should, because I feel like other people would have definitely broken down with the situations that we've had. But having faith over fear, and having the fact that we have such a close-knit family, just got us through it all. So that being said, that we always said why, until one point we just stopped saying, we just stopped asking why. I stopped asking why. You know, things happen, and as things happen and keep happening, I've noticed that I have become a more calm person. I have taken the information in. I have, you know, even like everyday life things, like, you know how when you on the train, and the train, all of a sudden you have your earphones on and you jamming, and you like, yeah, and you rapping, and people looking at you like you crazy, and then all of a sudden, like, you see your stop just, and you're like, what the fuck? And you take off your earphone, and they're like, well, this train is going express to 125th Street, and you're like, this is what the fuck I get for not taking off one earphone, or for putting my music mad loud. You know that feeling? Even then, I'm like, there's a reason why this happened, is to prevent me from being at a certain place at a certain time. So I'm gonna just take it easy, get off at 125th Street, go to the downtown side, and then just get on the train, because there's nothing I can do at that point. There's nothing that I can do at that point. So I met this one guy. Well, I met him 10 years ago, but this one guy always, he just takes stuff with ease, and takes stuff with such a calm vibe that it has rubbed off on me. I speak to this guy every day, and just to see, and I've seen him go through like rough situations, and the fact that he's just like, you know, it's out of my hands, I can't do nothing about it, is what I want to the type of vibes that I want to give out to you guys. So when you go through a situation, just know there's nothing you can do about it. It's out of your hands. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is completely out of your hands. You're just gonna have to live to the moment as it goes. All right, guys. So my next video is actually gonna be about some of my surgeries and what I've been through while going through this whole process. So if you would like to stay tuned for that, please subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, as the Ace family says. Like, comment, subscribe. And I will tell you about one of my surgeries that I've had. I can actually give you like titles of what my surgeries was, and if you want to hear one, please comment below and tell me which one you want to hear. So I've actually had my appendix taken out. I've had a 10-centimeter cyst taken out of my ovaries. Okay, I've had my tonsils taken out. I've had a cyst taken out of my vagina. Yes, people, cyst taken out of my vagina. It's actually more common than what you guys think. So let's see what else. I think that's about it. Well, I still have more details, so comment below which one you want to hear about the next video. And as always, guys, thank you for listening, and just remember, faith over fear. Love you guys.